Today is a great opportunity for attendees to see my management team talk about the three big investment opportunities we have in Biffa, namely the investments in plastics recycling, where we're creating high-value raw materials from recycled plastics here in the UK. Investments in energy from waste. The UK is woefully short of energy from waste infrastructure, and these facilities are much needed to create renewable energy for the UK's national grid. And the third area is our acquisition strategy in the industrial and commercial waste collection business. It's a very fragmented market, very inefficient market, and our acquisition strategy means we're building a market-leading business at scale that will be the most efficient operator in the UK. The UK waste management sector has transformed itself in the last 20 years from an out-of-sight, out-of-mind, landfill-based business model to one where we've got huge assets in recycling and energy from waste. And that's great, but there's so much more to be done. And the government, society and businesses are all demanding more. And we stand ready at Biffa to make that happen. Whether that be investment in raw materials manufacture from recyclable materials, whether it be energy from waste investments from that waste that can't be recycled, or investing in our collections business to make sure we've got the most flexible, efficient and sustainable collections business in the country. What's so exciting about our strategy for growth is not only is it going to make Biffa a bigger, more profitable and successful business, but it's also going to be a far more sustainable business, running a far more efficient collection network, reducing the amount of miles travelled to collect customers' waste, replacing virgin plastic material with recycled plastic material, and generating renewable energy from waste that can't be recycled, reducing therefore the carbon impact of both us as an operator, but also of the waste on our customers' behalf. And underpinning all of that, we're a really good UK corporate citizen, employing nearly 8,000 people, investing in green economy infrastructure here in the UK, and a big payer of taxes. Last year we paid £230 million in indirect taxes to the UK exchequers. We're really pleased that the government has shown significant ambition in its recently published resources and waste strategy. It wants to stimulate further levels of recycling, more investment in energy from waste, and of course minimise the amount of waste that goes to landfill. We applaud the intent within it. There's a lot of detail to work through and we've been cooperating with government on that. We're ready for these things to be implemented and it will benefit our business' operations with the ability to provide more collection services for recycling and invest more in the infrastructure that the UK needs once those policies are in place.
The industrial and commercial business is the UK's leading waste management platform in the commercial sector. With 11% market share, that is significant in a very fragmented marketplace. 66 collection depots, 37 waste transfer stations with the ability to move waste around, gives us scale in all areas. And on a national basis, scale gives you a tremendous opportunity to leverage those largest customers to provide that service on your fleet 95% of the time without relying on a subcontract network is really important. But for the smaller customers within the local regions, it's equally important that you have scales, that you have flexibility, you're local to the customer, you can be responsive and you generate the lowest cost to serve. A real takeaway from this is that scale equals flexibility and lowest operating cost.
To what extent do you see increasing?
Waste is an important spend for customers, large and small. And why is it important? For the largest customers, you may argue that it's important because it's a significant cost, but in reality, the largest customers have waste as an essential service. It has to be collected, it has to be recycled, it has to be processed, and importantly, you have to have visibility in terms of where that waste is going. So it's a fundamental business requirement. And for the smaller customers, it's equally important. If you're running a pub or a restaurant, it's really essential you've got an efficient local provider that can collect your waste on time and clear it in full. Now, has that agenda changed in recent years? Well, 99% of our customer services are scheduled. They are what we would call optimized. The customers have the right number of bins, they're collected on the right days, and therefore the business is quite predictable. The larger customers specifically are becoming increasingly interested in ESG, environmental social governance. And why is that? Well, it's really important that customers understand who is collecting their waste, where it's being taken to, how it's being recycled, and how it's being disposed of. It's so important for customers not to end up with their waste being deposited in somewhere it should not be. So that end-to-end visibility is important. So what is Biffa doing about that? We've introduced carbon mapping tools for customers that allow us to measure that lifetime journey of waste. And with clear visibility, because the collection service is on a Biffa vehicle as opposed to being subcontracted, we're able to provide that surety to customers. So acquisitions are a really important part of Biffa's strategy. I&C has been strong in this area, 38 deals over 6 years, £227 million of revenue acquired, and a tremendous integration track record of delivering synergies quickly with low post-synergy multiples. So despite our track record of acquisitions, there's a lot to go at. 11% market share just tells you that there is a huge fragmented marketplace in the UK where Biffa as the natural consolidator has just got so many targets to go at. It's a really exciting time.
We're the treatment arm of the business. So we develop a whole set of processes to do things like aggregates recycling, plastics recycling. We operate materials recycling facilities. We'll also do hazardous waste oils processing and remediate those back to restoration. So we give a whole range of spectrum and energy from waste across the business, which supports, once the material has been collected, how you can maximise the value from it. The drivers for change are most obvious. You'll see public perception has so changed in this arena with all the information you now get on the newspapers, the television, and there's a clear demand from people to see better recycling, clearer labelling, and a desire to do the right thing for the environment. That's then coupled with government policy. So you've got a waste strategy coming through, but it's a whole broad policy, not just off one political spectrum, but across the political parties pushing for recycling. So there's going to be more opportunities to recycle, there'll be more material available, and that's where we step in. We're actually one of the pioneers of closed loop recycling. When you look at the milk bottles that you see on your supermarket shelves, and you'll see recycled content on them, that's us. And that was something we developed with the supermarkets, the dairies, the bottlers, everyone all working together, starting in 2008 to produce a recycled material for milk bottles. So that's true closed loop recycling, and it's the only perfect example in the world of it. But it will be mirrored across other sectors, so we have experience and we know how you achieve that stakeholder buy-in. At the moment, our focus has always been on HDPE, which is predominantly your milk bottles, and we then deal with polypropylene, which is your pots, tubs and trays. We don't deal with PET at the moment. PET are basically your fizzy bottles, your Coke bottles, your Pepsi bottles. But they're a large proportion of the amount of plastics we produce. So we have an in-house demand to deal with that, which we're currently sending to a third party to process. We will bring that in-house and then develop that as a capability. So it will basically double our capacity in this sector.
It's important to note that whilst the UK has substantially improved its levels of recycling, that isn't the final answer to the question. There are still substantial volumes of waste that require treatment, and energy from waste is the next best option, recovering energy from that waste rather than it being disposed of to landfill. Whilst there are currently 44 operational facilities in the UK, there is still a substantial gap in the necessary capacity to deal with all the residual waste after recycling. Biffa and its partners are very well placed to deliver this new infrastructure, underpinned by Biffa's control of industrial commercial waste. It's important to distinguish the difference between the recent failures in this market and the proposals that we're developing. Our technology has been proven and operates in over 44 facilities in the UK, processing more than 12 million tonnes per annum. The recent failures in the market have been linked to new technologies that are in early stages of development and can't demonstrate that proven track record of operation. Both of our projects are in the final stages of reaching financial close, and we'd anticipate construction starting in 2019. With a 3-year construction period, operational returns will be realised in 2023.
My views on capital allocation are relatively straightforward. We're trying to ensure, on the one hand, that we can pursue as many attractive investments as possible, versus, on the other hand, ensuring that our debt leverage ratio isn't too high, which might in turn jeopardise either our dividend or our ability to fund our interest bill. The way in which we will achieve that balance is ensuring that we don't take on board debt that is greater than 2.5 times our earnings. We've got 3 really exciting investment opportunities ahead of us. In terms of acquisitions in the collections area of our business, we ensure that basically we never pay more than 5 times earnings after we realise the synergies on those deals. Providing we do that, we achieve internal rates of return in the high teens. Our second area of opportunity is energy from waste. These are large-scale capital investments that, once built, generate very stable and growing returns. We expect them to deliver mid to high internal rates of return. Then our final area of investment opportunity is plastic recycling. These are much smaller scale investments than energy from waste. We have a very strong established team who've actually been working in this area for nearly 20 years, and we think these are really exciting opportunities whereby the internal rates of return will be in the low 20%. In line with our capital allocation policy, we intend to ensure that we stay within a range of 2 to 2.5 times debt to EBITDA. Our debt will peak next year in financial 21 before we bring it back down towards the target 2 times level.
It's been a fascinating day. I think if you look at all the opportunities that Biffa can really get a hold of, there's so much to do. There's such a challenge around capital allocation. Do you go for plastics recycling? Do you go for EFW? There's so many other things you can do with automating the MRFs, for example. Where do you put that marginal pound of investment? And I think today has really helped us understand what it is and how you get to grips with that challenge.
I think today has really shown us that Biffa's equity story is now a sort of effectively a three-pronged capital allocation story. So we've got the well-known, well-understood I&C consolidation play, and I think investors have understood that well since the IPO. We've got energy from waste and the development of that infrastructure, which again is something that I think people have become more accustomed to over the last couple of years. And then what's been, a bit more of a new concept for people is polymers and the really attractive returns that the company can generate from that. And I think what today has shown is that each of these three prongs is underpinned by some pretty favourable market dynamics in the medium to long term.
And what do you think is most exciting?
Oh, it's got to be plastics. And I think since Blue Planet, everyone's been so laser focused on the opportunity to get involved in plastics recycling, and there's such a huge opportunity. It's the right thing to do.